At 68, I believed I had my golden years mapped out, but there's one decision I deeply regret, saying yes to babysitting my grandchildren full-time. My daughter, Sophie, called that sunny afternoon, full of hope. I wish someone had told me the true cost of what I was signing up for. Sophie's voice was strained, talking about childcare costs and impossible work schedules. Over coffee, she painted a picture of joyful mornings, little hands holding mine, a house filled with laughter. "It'll be so easy, Mom," she'd said, "just playing with Liam and Mia, and completely flexible." I felt a surge of purpose, believing I was stepping into a wonderful new chapter, a vital part of my family's life. My quiet spare room soon transformed into a grandparent daycare, bright plastic toys, a small high chair, even a mini tent. The day Liam, 5, and Mia, 3, arrived for their first full day, my heart swelled with love. Their tiny hands, their eager faces, it was everything I'd dreamed of. But as the morning wore on, with scattered toys, spilled juice, and constant questions, a subtle pang of realization hit me. This wasn't just helping out. This was different. My life was utterly rearranged. I used to cherish my mornings, waking before the sun, the house quiet, just me and my mug of hot coffee, a good book in my favorite armchair. It was my time, my sanctuary. But after Liam and Mia moved in, those quiet moments vanished like mist. I'd be jolted awake, not by my alarm, but by the thundering of little feet and urgent calls for, "Grandma, I'm hungry." My book stayed on the nightstand. My coffee often went cold, forgotten amidst demands for breakfast and cartoons. My time was no longer my own. It was entirely dictated by their boundless energy and immediate needs. I realized, with a pang, that my peaceful routine, the one I'd carefully cultivated for years, had simply ceased to exist. As the days blended into weeks, I struggled to find even a sliver of me time. I'd planned to spend an hour in my garden, only to hear a cry of, "Grandma, look!" and find Mia trying to climb the bookshelf. I'd pick up my knitting, but Liam would invariably need help building a Lego tower, or Mia would demand a story. Every single minute of my day was now tethered to their needs, their play, their snacks, their naps. There was no space for my hobbies, no quiet corner for reflection, no moment just to sit and be. The small freedoms I had always taken for granted, reading a chapter, tending a plant, simply resting, were gone, replaced by a relentless schedule that wasn't mine. It left me feeling weary, constantly longing for a pause that never came. In the evenings, after their small bodies finally gave in to sleep, I'd sit in the living room, surrounded by scattered toys and half-eaten snacks. The silence was deafening, yet it offered no real comfort. It was the ghost of my old life, haunting a room now utterly transformed. I missed my independence, the simple ability to decide how I spent my own time. I remember George, a neighbor who used to say his morning walks were his thinking time. He gave up caring for his grandchildren after a few months, saying he felt like he was losing himself. I understood exactly what he meant. If you're considering babysitting your grandchildren full-time, ask yourself, are you truly ready to give up the small freedoms that make your life yours? Because once they're gone, reclaiming them might be harder than you think. In those first few weeks, when Sophie would come to pick up Liam and Mia in the evenings, there was a feeling of such warmth and gratitude. She'd sweep in, a whirlwind of relief and thanks, hugging me tightly. "Mom, I don't know what I'd do without you," she'd say. As Liam and Mia would excitedly tell her about their day, she'd offer to help clear the dinner plates or ask if I needed anything from the store. I'd feel a pleasant glow, a sense of real purpose. This felt right, a balanced exchange of love and support. My grandchildren were happy to see their mother, and their joy was infectious, briefly lifting any weariness I felt. It truly felt like a wonderful new chapter. But as the weeks stretched into months, those moments of harmony began to shift, subtly at first. Sophie's visits grew shorter, her offers of help less frequent. "Just leave the dishes, Mom, I'm so swamped," she'd say, already halfway out the door. Then came the small, almost imperceptible criticisms. "Did Liam really need that second cookie, Mom? He's been so energetic tonight." Or, Mia's tantrum today was a bit much. Did you try her quiet corner? I'd try to brush them off, but they stung. It wasn't just the words. It was the feeling behind them. I started to feel less like a cherished mother helping out, and more like an employee, with a performance review lurking just beneath the surface. My calls for a quiet evening to myself were often met with a quick, "Oh, Mom, I can't tonight. I'm swamped." "You're doing great." The appreciation, I realized, was becoming an expectation. The hardest part was feeling invisible, especially when my whole family was around. I remember one Sunday dinner I prepared roast chicken, my famous mashed potatoes, fresh green beans. I'd spent all morning in the kitchen, shooing Liam and Mia out from under my feet, trying to make it special. Sophie and Leo, my son-in-law, arrived, and the conversation immediately revolved around their demanding jobs, their weekend plans, the children's school issues. "Mom, could you just get Liam some more water?" Sophie would ask, without even looking at me, her eyes on Leo. My efforts, my presence, felt like background noise. I watched Liam try to interrupt Sophie, only to be told, "Not now, honey. Mommy's talking." But if he came to me, I was expected to drop everything. I was the primary authority figure for these children, managing their every need, yet I had none of the parental respect, only the endless duties. My plate sat, barely touched. I was physically there, surrounded by the people I loved, yet I felt utterly alone, completely unseen. Later that night, the house finally quiet, the children asleep, I sat in my bedroom, holding my phone. My thumb hovered over Sophie's contact. I wanted to tell her how I felt, how tired I was, how much I longed for a simple conversation about my day. But then the fear crept in. Would I be a burden? Would she be annoyed? Would she just say, "Mom, you know we appreciate you," and change the subject? I didn't want to remind her that I was here, waiting, hoping for a connection that might never come. So I put the phone down. And that's when the full weight of it hit me. Even when you're always present, physically there for every single need, it's easier than you think to become out of sight, out of mind. No matter how much your family loves you, once you're integrated into their daily grind as a service, the genuine connection can fade. Are you prepared for that kind of loneliness? Because it's a quiet ache that settles deep in your bones. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing where I lived. I didn't realize I was also changing why I lived. At home, I had responsibilities, routines, hobbies, and a reason to get up in the morning. Even the small things, watering the plants, making my own coffee, tidying up my space, gave me a sense of purpose. But in the nursing home, those daily rituals disappeared. Meals were made for me. Cleaning was done by someone else. The plants? Well, they weren't mine to take care of anymore. At first, I told myself it would be nice to finally relax. No more chores, no more responsibilities, just rest. But after a few weeks, I realized something was missing. The days felt long, stretched out, with nothing to do but wait. I saw it in other residents, too. People who had once been full of energy now spent their days sitting, staring, waiting for time to pass. There was a man named George, 84 years old, who had been a carpenter his entire life. At home, he was always fixing things, building little projects in his garage. But here, there were no tools, no projects, nothing for him to create. I watched as he slowly withdrew, his hands once strong and skilled, now idle in his lap. "I feel useless," he told me one day, and I knew exactly what he meant. When you no longer have something to care for, something to work toward, life starts to lose its meaning. The mind slows down, the body follows, and soon you start to feel like just another resident in a place where time moves but nothing really changes. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Because once you move in, finding purpose isn't as simple as filling your time. It's about fighting to hold on to the things that make you feel alive. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 3 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Before Liam and Mia came, I was doing quite well for my age. I wasn't just sitting around, I was active. My garden was my pride and joy, a riot of color I tended myself, bending and kneeling with ease. Every morning I'd take a brisk walk around the neighborhood, feeling the sun on my face, my legs strong beneath me. I was proud of my independence, proud of maintaining my health. I genuinely believed I was setting myself up for a long, vibrant life. But then the children arrived, and everything changed. Suddenly, my body wasn't just mine anymore. It was a tool for endless tasks. There was the constant bending to pick up toys, the lifting of little Mia into her high chair, the chasing after Liam when he darted towards something forbidden. Every day felt like a marathon, and my usual routines that kept me limber vanished. My back, which had rarely bothered me, started aching a dull throb that never quite went away. My knees grew stiff from all the up and down. I was perpetually tired, a deep, bone-weary exhaustion that sleep couldn't fully erase. I used to move with purpose. Now I just felt like I was constantly moving, without ever getting ahead. And with the constant demands came the neglect of my own needs. My regular checkups, my eye appointments, even just a quiet hour at the gym, they all started to fall by the wayside. It wasn't malicious. It was just the reality. "Grandma, I need juice." Mia fell. There was always something more urgent. I'd call Sophie to explain I needed to reschedule my physical, hoping she'd offer to cover, but she was always so busy with work. Or just too tired after her day. "Can't you just go another time, Mom?" she'd say, and of course, I'd say yes. I pushed my own health concerns aside, telling myself I'd get to them next week. But next week became next month, and the small aches became persistent pains. It felt like I was betraying my own body, letting it slowly decline, because I couldn't find a moment to care for it. One afternoon, chasing Mia, who had just grabbed a marker and was heading for the wall, my foot caught on a toy car Liam had left in the hallway. I went down hard, a sharp jolt running through my hip. The children gasped, then Mia started to cry, startled by the sudden noise. I lay there for a moment, not just feeling the pain, but a profound shock. My body, which I had once relied on, had failed me so quickly. I managed to sit up, reassuring the children, but inside I was shaking. How had I become so frail so fast? This wasn't just normal aging. This was accelerated decline, fueled by relentless demands and neglected self-care. If you're considering full-time grandparent care, ask yourself, are you truly prepared for how quickly your body can give out when everything is set up to make you push past your limits? Because once your strength diminishes, getting it back isn't as easy as you might think. After losing my routine, my purpose, and even my physical strength, I thought I had faced the hardest truths. But then came hard truth 5, the invisible walls of privacy and dignity. At home, before Liam and Mia arrived, my house was my sanctuary. It had its quiet hum, the gentle ticking of the clock, the rustle of newspaper in the morning. Now, it was a constant symphony of high-pitched demands, cartoon jingles, and the clatter of toys. "Grandma, look! Grandma, I'm hungry! Grandma, he took my truck!" Every attempt at a moment of quiet, even just to gather my thoughts, was interrupted. I'd try to sip my tea, and suddenly Mia would be pulling at my sleeve. I'd try to read a recipe, and Liam would be explaining his latest superhero battle. I realized I no longer had a single quiet corner, not even inside my own head. The peace I once cherished, the simple luxury of silence, was gone, replaced by a relentless, joyful noise that slowly grated on my nerves. I found myself holding my head, simply longing for a moment of quiet. My home, my haven, transformed into a bustling daycare, but the deepest invasion wasn't just the noise, it was the complete loss of my personal space. My bedroom, which had always been my private retreat, became a casualty. It was where I'd go to unwind, to be truly myself. But now, It was often occupied by a sleeping Mia during nap time, or a pile of Liam's discarded action figures when he decided it was the best place for a secret mission. I struggled to find alone time, even for the simplest, most personal tasks. Getting dressed in the morning felt like a rushed affair, always with the possibility of a little face peeking around the door. A private phone call with a friend? Nearly impossible without little ears listening or little voices demanding attention. My sense of ownership over my own home, the feeling that this space was truly mine, diminished day by day. It began to feel less like a home and more like a shared facility, where my personal boundaries were just suggestions. It wasn't just me, either. I remembered talking to Agnes at the community center. Her situation was a bit different. She had moved into her daughter's home to care for her grandchildren. "Clara," she told me, her voice tinged with a weariness I knew all too well. "I feel like a guest in my own daughter's house. A useful guest, mind you, but a guest nonetheless." She described having to ask permission for things she once did without a second thought, like deciding what to watch on TV or when to take a bath. She felt constantly watched, even when she was alone in her room, because the children might burst in at any moment. "My whole life," she sighed. "I had my own space, my own decisions. Now I'm just part of the background." Listening to Agnes, I realized my own home had become less mine, mirroring her feelings. We were both experiencing the same invisible walls, the same quiet erosion of our autonomy, regardless of whose house it was. And then there's the loss of dignity. It's a hard thing to talk about, but it's real. Simple acts like using the bathroom, which had always been a private moment, became something often interrupted by a knock, a cry, or a little hand trying to open the door. Dressing was no longer a leisurely choice of outfit, but a hurried affair, just trying to get it done before the next demand. When every aspect of your daily life, even the most intimate ones, becomes communal, how much dignity can you truly maintain? You start to feel less like an independent adult and more like a utility, always available, always on call. If you're considering taking on full-time grandparent care, ask yourself, are you truly prepared to give up the privacy and control you've had your entire life? Because once it's gone, once those invisible walls come down, it's harder than you think to ever get them back. I remember late evenings, after Liam and Mia were finally asleep, when the house would fall silent. I'd sit in my favorite armchair, not reading, not knitting, just existing. In those moments of quiet, a whisper would start in my mind. What if I stopped? I'd picture my old life, my quiet mornings, my long walks, the sheer, beautiful emptiness of a day with no demands. I'd think, if it gets to be too much, I can always just stop, right? It's temporary. A brief, fleeting smile would touch my lips, before reality, cold and heavy, would settle back in. But stopping wasn't as simple as my tired mind wished. One evening, Sophie and Leo came over, looking stressed. We were at the dining table, and I noticed a stack of bills on the counter. "Grandma, we just don't know what we'd do without you," Sophie said, her voice strained as she explained a sudden unexpected expense. "Childcare is just so expensive these days." Leo nodded gravely. It hit me then. They hadn't just asked for help. They had built their entire financial world around my free labor. When I gently suggested I might need a day or two to myself next month, the look on their faces, a mix of panic and disappointment, made my stomach clench with guilt. My departure wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a financial burden I was now responsible for. The financial bind was heavy, but the emotional strings were even tighter. I tried again a few weeks later to explain my exhaustion to Sophie. "I love them dearly, you know that," I began, my voice trembling slightly. "But I'm just so tired. My body isn't what it used to be, and I need time for myself." Sophie's eyes welled up. "Mom, how can you even say that? The children adore you. They'd be heartbroken. Are you really going to abandon them when they need you most?" Liam, sensing the tension, came and wrapped his arms around my legs. Mia started to cry. I felt a wave of shame wash over me. Abandon them? Was that truly how she saw it? The words felt like daggers, twisting into the deepest parts of my heart. The emotional cost of even suggesting I needed a break was excruciating, far heavier than any physical pain. I started seeing it everywhere, in other grandparents at the park, their faces etched with the same weariness I felt. They pushed swings, picked up dropped toys, but their eyes held a distant, trapped look. Once you step into that role of full-time, unpaid caregiver, the chains can become unbreakable. The physical decline makes you less capable of independent life, the financial reliance makes you indispensable, and the emotional guilt binds you tighter than any contract. You realize that the temporary decision has become a permanent fixture in your life, designed to keep you right where you are. If you're considering this path, ask yourself, are you truly prepared for the possibility that once you go in, leaving might not be a choice you get to make anymore? Because once you settle in, those barriers, whether financial, physical, or emotional, can be harder to overcome than you expect. I sit here now, in my favorite armchair, the one spot in my home that still feels truly mine, and I reflect on the journey that brought me here. It started with so much love, so much hope, the promise of joy. But if I could go back, if I could whisper into the ear of that younger, more eager Clara, I would tell her to look deeper, to ask the harder questions. My biggest regret wasn't that I loved my grandchildren. It was that in saying yes to full-time care, I slowly, unknowingly said no to myself. I lost my precious schedule, my sense of purpose, my health began to decline, and my independence, the very thing I cherished, slipped through my fingers. Now I want to be clear. My message isn't to say that helping your family is wrong, or that full-time grandparent care is always a mistake. Life is rarely that simple. There are families with no other options, circumstances that genuinely demand such a sacrifice. I understand that. But too often, we seniors, out of love or a sense of duty, step into these roles without truly understanding the long-term impact on our own lives. We assume it will be fine, that we'll manage, that our families will see our efforts. The truth is, it's about making an informed choice, a deliberate one, not an assumed one, born of obligation or fleeting emotion. So, if you're standing at the crossroads I once stood at, please listen to my words, explore every single alternative. Discuss boundaries with your adult children from the very beginning, what your limits are, what you need for yourself. Be honest about your physical and emotional capacity. Don't just assume you'll adapt. Really ask if you can adapt without losing yourself. Fight harder for your own independence, for your own purpose, for the routines that make your life yours. Because once you give them up, getting them back is a battle you might not win. Ask yourself, with absolute honesty, before you take that step, is this truly what's best for me, or is it just what seems easiest right now? Thank you for joining me today and for listening to my story. Your own story, your choices, are profoundly important. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one insight you gained today and how you might use it in your own life. Your thoughts and experiences are invaluable to our community. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification so you don't miss any of our future videos. Your support helps us continue creating content that truly informs and inspires. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to connecting with you in the comments.